Wes Moore, I know as a military man, as a black man, as a human being, looking at this video, start to finish, had to be sickening. What do we as a nation take from it? The same week, we are having to look at a trial where Americans are reliving again the scene of a black man lying on the pavement with a knee on his neck for a better part of 9 minutes while his hands are cuffed behind him. All of this happening the same week.
You know, it is absolutely infuriating looking at this video. And it's infuriating because, as you pointed out, it makes so many of us feel like liars. Where if they call it a high-risk traffic stop, but unfortunately in this country, every traffic stop is high risk. Because he did everything.
If you're a black man.
That's right.
If you're a black man. Because he did everything we've ever been asked to do in these kind of situations. Where you realize in situations like that, your resume doesn't matter. Your CV doesn't matter. The fact that you are in uniform doesn't matter. Your vehicle doesn't matter. Your calm demeanor doesn't matter. He calls them sir. It doesn't matter. You still end up in this situation. The fact that you can pull over in a lighted area, it doesn't matter. And this conduct, it erodes at basic fairness, it erodes at public safety, it erodes on the idea that people feel like this society can be built for everybody. And so when we watch this, an Army lieutenant, a person who, the same way that I did, put his hand on a Bible and swore to protect the integrity and the safety and the future of this country, now watching how he is treated, despite doing everything that he was taught and being asked to do, it makes us feel like liars. And we have to be able to unpackage that in this time, that this also cannot just be about what are we doing to take care of these individual situations when these individual situations continue to happen. That if we are not focusing on changing laws and changing policies and changing recruitment and retaining efforts, if we're not actually having a real holistic conversation about race and policing, if we're not understanding, we watch what's happening in Minnesota right now, and the National Guard just got called in. Here's the reality. The President of the United States has only had to call in the National Guard 12 times in our nation's history. 12 times. 10 of them had to do with race. Only twice. Once was because of a postal worker strike in New York. The other time was because of looting in St. Croix after a hurricane. Every other time in our nation's history, it had to do with race. And so if we cannot combat this, and if we cannot understand this joint nature of what's happening between policing and race, and why a video like this is so infuriating, then we're not going to be able to get to not just a root cause, but any form of a collective better place.
What do police officers need to do? What do police unions need to do? What do police commissioners need to do? Because, Wes, we've heard time and again that crime has gone up across the country since George Floyd, since the Black Lives Matters marches, because police officers are back on their heels.
Maryland has new laws.
Afraid that they're going to be either arrested or afraid that they can't carry out their jobs because someone will turn on a camera and bad things will happen to them, happen to their careers. And their suggestion is we just don't understand, and we don't. Just like I don't understand what you went through defending this country in war. We don't understand what good police officers go through day in and day out. We don't understand, as Joe Biden said, when they put on the badge and they leave their home at night, they know they may not come back home in the morning to see their families. So how do we balance this? And what should law enforcement officers, leaders, unions, commissioners, what should they do to step up here to call out these few? And we're going to give the benefit of the doubt for purposes of this conversation only. What do they do to call out these bad cops who are in the minority?
Yeah. Well, I think what they need to do is actually be unafraid of calling out the bad cops. They need to be unafraid about being able to take on the policies that are protecting bad cops. You know, I think what we saw in Minnesota with the murder trial for Derek Chauvin is actually pretty remarkable. When you saw law enforcement officers who were in an open stage saying that what Derek Chauvin did was not just illegal, it was inhumane. That was an important and a watershed moment for people to pay attention to. And Mika, you're absolutely right. I mean, just this past weekend, Maryland became the first state in the country, my home state, to repeal this so-called Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. You know, this was an archaic law that was passed in the 1970s and never made adjustments. And now Maryland is the first state to actually remove it from its policies. And I'm really proud of the leadership that we had of overturning the governor's veto of this, you know, led by our Speaker Adrian Jones and Senators Bill Ferguson and Senator Carter and delegates like C.T. Wilson and Delegate Moon and Delegate Stephanie Smith, because they're fighting for reforms that were not just long overdue, but that our community had been crying for. And so, and we're talking about changes when we say, like, what are the changes that are incorporated in this bill? You know, change like that officers must wear body cameras. This shouldn't be under debate. In fact, officers have also been the ones who've been pushing for this, because this also holds not just them accountable, but holds communities accountable. Limiting no-knock warrants, requiring that every county has police accountability boards, saying that force against people should be necessary and proportional. These are not drastic, but they are necessary. Because it's showing our community that you must be involved in a process of policing, but it's also showing policing that you must change in the way you are dealing with communities.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.